Hi, I'm Dan, this is At Midlife Crisis Motorcyclist, and this is the new and improved 2025 Triumph Trident 660. New and improved enough though to maintain its position as perhaps one of the more desirable My First big bikes of its type. Well, Triumph must be mindful of the fact that the sector has got a whole lot more competitive since the Trident first launched in 2020, not least for the arrival of the Honda CB750 Hornet, which is what I learnt to ride on and passed my test with, and the fact that key rivals like the Yamaha MT-07 have also just come in for a round of 2025 model year updates. Against those two, is the Triumph any more than just a lick of paint and set of new graphics? Well, yes it is. There's quite a lot going on under the skin with this bike, in fact, but the foundations thankfully remain as before, which is to say the same steel frame, the same cool modern retro looks, and the same 660cc triple. It's now Euro 5 Plus compliant, but it has the same 81 horsepower and 64 newton meters of torque. Nothing wrong with any of that, of course. Now, in terms of the upgrades, we've got an improved fork, the same Showa as we had before, but now with the big piston internals. But the really important changes are with the electronics. The Trident now having full cornering ABS and traction control. It also gets a quick shifter and cruise control, all as standard. There's also an extra sport riding mode. This all for the £7,895 of before, which, considering all the extra kit you're getting, sounds pretty good, doesn't it? Against the rivals, the Honda is still cheaper and more powerful. Not as cheap as it was when it came out, but it does still undercut the Triumph, while the MT-07 has been heavily upgraded for the 2025 model year and has much better upside down forks. It's got an improved frame, better brakes, improved rider electronics, and of course the option of that Y-AMT automatic gearbox. The Yamaha is a little bit down on power compared with the Honda and the Triumph, but that CP2 engine is an absolute cracker, and the MT-07 does weigh a little bit less than some of the other bikes in the class. In that context, and against those two bikes and others in the category, the Triumph does have that trump card of that three-cylinder engine, which of course combines some of the kind of the reviness of a small capacity four-cylinder, but also the torque and flexibility of the parallel twins used in most of the rival bikes. Is that enough to justify the fact that it is one of the more expensive bikes in the class as well? Well, let's go and find out. Right, so welcome to the Trident 660, and I'm really glad to be able to bring a video on this bike to you, because this was actually the first press bike I booked out, but that was before I'd set up the channel, so I didn't do a video on it at the time, obviously. So it's good to revisit and kind of see how it feels now that I've got quite a few more miles under my belt. But at the time it was kind of, apart from the Hornet, it was that kind of first big bike, which is what I think the Trident does so well, because this and bikes like it are that kind of perfect size and level of performance, where they're kind of big and serious enough to make you feel like you've graduated into the world of proper riding, but they're kind of manageable in size. The performance is exciting, but it's not too scary, and they're just a really nice balance. And where I found the Hornet was at times a little bit intimidating for a then newbie. The throttle was quite binary, quite aggressive. The bike was very pointy. Straight away the Trident just felt a lot friendlier and more characterful as well. And I think that comes down to the three-cylinder engine, which is obviously a bit of a Triumph signature. And in the area of the market in which this bike works, it's a unique selling point, isn't it? Because other than the four-cylinder Honda CB650, everything else is various shades of parallel twin. And at the point that I rode the Trident for the first time, I'd never ridden anything but parallel twins, so suddenly getting on a bike that sounded like this and revved like this was, well, it was a real eye-opener. In a good way. Because, like I said in my intro, the triple really is kind of the ideal halfway house between a four-cylinder and a twin, because if you look at that four-cylinder in the Honda, in the 650, that needs over 9,000 revs to get peak torque, whereas the triple in the Triumph is way more flexible, but it also revs to over 10,000. So you've just got that incredible bandwidth of performance to enjoy it. It doesn't sound or feel like any of those two cylinders. It just feels way more exotic, and yet it's still a relatively cheap and accessible bike. And I think that accessibility thing is very important, because Triumph told us in the presentation for this bike that the Trident has been really successful in winning over new riders, and particularly women, who I think find the lazy stereotyping, I realise, so tall women and short women, but generally shorter riders find the size of this bike really confidence inspiring. And when you're just starting out, that's a big deal. And in size terms, the Trident doesn't feel a massive leap up from a 125 or an A2 bike or anything like that. So when you first sit on it, you don't think, oh my god, I'm on a big scary bike. You're kind of in your comfort zone. But then the performance is obviously different league. I mean, I'm kind of thinking it's a similar size to that Aprilia Tuono 457 I was riding recently on the channel, but it's got nearly double the horsepower, which in situations like that is really useful, not to mention exciting. And when you come to this as your first big bike, sure, 81 horsepower isn't that much in the grand scheme of fast motorbikes, but believe me, when you're new to it, 81 horsepower feels like plenty. And when I rode the Trident against the Honda, I went out with a mate and we swapped to and fro between the bikes. And it was really interesting, and I'm completely stealing his line here, but he said he described the Honda as being a great motorbike, but the Triumph being everything that's great about motorbikes. And I kind of see his point, because a lot of these modern parallel twins, as good as they are kind of, they're not dripping in charisma, but the three-cylinder, I mean, just so smooth, creamy, and it's got that flexibility in the power delivery that it's just so exploitable. And it's been a while since I've ridden the other one, so I can't honestly offer you much meaningful comparison in terms of what advantages the new forks bring. I'm thankfully not riding hard enough that I'm troubling the traction control or the ABS, but it's a nice confidence builder to have that technology supporting. In the new sport mode, definitely feels aggressive. It just makes the throttle that bit sharper, and apparently if you are riding on the ragged edge, it lets the traction control, it makes it a little bit less intrusive. Not that I found it intrusive, because that's one of the benefits of it being a cornering system, is that it knows how much the bike has leaned over, and it can dial in as much traction control as you need, not just pull the rug out from under you. So in theory, you shouldn't even notice it working at all. But yeah, I think what I enjoy about this bike is it's got a mix of a really nice intersection between friendliness and aggression. So it's fast and exciting without being scary, which as a new rider is a fantastic combination of qualities. And I think the Trident or bikes like it are just perfect for new riders, but they're also more than good enough to satisfy more experienced riders as well. I think there's a kind of depth to the Trident that will put a smile on your face whatever rider level you happen to be at. So it's great to be able to get back on one and share those riding impressions with you, especially with a bit more experience under my belt. So there we go. Bit of a flavour of Trident 660 and some miles yet to go, so I'll crack on with that. So there we go, it was fun to get back on the Trident, but is it the perfect first big bike? Well, I'm not going to presume to tell you that. Everybody's got their own tastes, of course, but I think it's got to be in there with a shout, just for its combination of its style, that charismatic 3-cylinder engine, the looks of it, the equipment and all that kind of thing. I think it's really, really impressive package. I think most of all, it just combines, it's just the right size in terms of its physical stature, how tall it is, all that kind of thing. So it's confidence inspiring for riders of all sizes and abilities. It's confidence inspiring in its performance. It's got enough to be exciting without too much to terrify you. And it just feels like it's on your side all the time. And it's mainly just great fun to ride. I think that engine is absolutely core to the experience as well, because there aren't really, I can't think of any other 3-cylinder engines in this price bracket on equivalent bikes. So that's a really, really attractive feature. And just for the reach of its performance as well, it does everything. It's got torquey flexibility, it's got the revs, and it sounds great, it's really smooth, all those kind of things. And I think when I switched from the Hornet to this, those 2 years ago when I was just starting out, when it was the first bike that I booked out and all that kind of thing, that was the first thing I really noticed, just how smooth and exploitable it was. So that's really good. I like the look of it as well. I know looks are subjective, everybody's got their own taste, but the whole kind of angry street fighter look of a lot of the kind of Japanese nakeds, that kind of thing, it's not to my taste, it might be to yours, each theirs, but I think this combines a sort of modern look with a kind of just a little retro nod with a round headlight and things like that. I think it can appeal to a pretty broad cross-section of people. So yeah, it's a pretty impressive package, and I think the Model Year 25 updates are really impressive given the extra depth they bring to the bike and without adding any more money to the price. Anyway, I'd love to hear what you think is the perfect first big bike, so let me know in the comments. We can have a chat about that, thrash it out in there. I've not ridden an MT-07 yet. I'd like to give that a whirl, so maybe I need to do that before I call it decisively, but let me know what you think. Anyway, I hope you liked the video. If you did, please hit like. If you're not subscribed already, please do so. And for now, I'll say goodbye. Thanks for watching and ride safe.